Hi, thanks for joining me today. Who is ready for Neon Watermelon Day? I'm raising my hand. You can't see me, but I promise I'm raising my hand. This neon watermelon is going to come in the form of a geode wall tile. I'm using the crystal clear epoxy resin from Let's Resin, and I'm coloring it with this alcohol ink, which is from the Tim Holtz Ranger line, and it's called Fiesta. Incidentally, fiesta means party in Spanish, so already this is turning out to be a very fun project. Yeah, of course I'm going to do this neon. I mean, it's in the name, neon watermelon, and I love neon colors. I do also add this color in, which is wild plum, and I end up adding purple resin dye as well. Neon pink on its own tends to pull very orange, and so I want to try to avoid that a little bit. Having this resin more on the purplish side, or at least having some purple undertones in it, really helps. Even though we're not using mica powder, you do definitely still want to stir the crap out of this to make sure you don't have any unmixed alcohol ink or resin dye. Being crystal molds, these have little nooks and crannies in them, and I want to really make sure that I'm addressing that. I don't want any bubbles, so I pre-spray with alcohol and then I kind of squish it around, and you'll see I only put a little bit of resin in it to start, squish that around, and then I continue to fill it up. I will end up using that Encaustic Board as my tile, but right now I'm using it so I can transport these crystals over to my curing area. These are all cured and it's time to demold. These are really soft silicone molds and they're very easy to demold, which is good because, like I said, lots of nooks and crannies to get stuck. It's time to attach these to the board, and I just want to get my placement down. I do end up eventually erasing these lines after I've gotten everything else situated. And I will attach these with UV resin. I just paint it on the bottom, just along the edges, because obviously any UV resin underneath it won't cure. And that tacks it in place just fine. With all the different layers of resin I put on this, these aren't going anywhere. I love that eraser. I feel like every artist I know has those. You'll have to tell me in the comments if you have one of those erasers or if you used to have one. I love them. I've used them since high school. I forgot that I do actually end up painting the UV resin on the board itself. Since this is a geode, we are going to work our way from the crystals out. So you can see I drew some guidelines for sort of the first area we're going to put down as far as the UV resin goes. And I am putting this glow powder in lava red around it. Now, it says lava red, it's actually pink. And I was just showing you there, I actually used it on something else that you'll see in, I think, a few weeks' time. I'm doing fairly thin layers of this resin, so this actually doesn't glow very much. And if I had it to do over again, I wouldn't add it. I would just do pink resin. Oh look, it's my head. Shocker. I do color in these areas first as sort of a fail-safe. That way, if what I'm putting on there isn't quite thick enough to cover all the white, it doesn't look bare. And I'm using my alcohol ink markers to do this. The surface of this board almost acted like unsealed wood. It really sort of absorbed everything. If you know what Encaustic Board is for, please let me know in the comments because I have no idea. I flash cure each area of resin just really quickly to make sure it doesn't run, and then at the end I will give this a full 3-minute cure under my lamp. You could definitely do this using regular resin. It obviously would just sort of run together, but that looks really nice. A lot of people have done that, and I really like the way that looks too. I decided to use these resin glow-in-the-dark sort of pebbles instead of the crushed glass. The crushed glass is kind of a pain in the ass to work with, but I made this difficult for myself anyhow because I decided I only wanted the pink ones. And it took me a really long time to go through and pick out just the pink ones. It was kind of absurd. I don't recommend this. I left some of this in because I thought it was just super funny how tedious this looks. And promise you, it was as tedious as it looks.
One eternity later.
Yay, it's finally over. And the next layer that we're doing is going to have some pink iridescent chunky mix glitter. And this glitter is supposed to have glow-in-the-dark properties as well, which I thought would complement the glow-in-the-dark I just did, but it doesn't actually glow very much. It's still what I would have used though. The idea behind the geode that I'm doing is that we start out with the crystals in the middle of these sort of concentric rings almost around them. And that's going to be sort of the most textured part. And each concentric ring after that will be less and less textured. Naturally, if you used regular resin for this, you wouldn't have to do each concentric ring as you go and cure it in between. So in some respects, this would be faster, but you have less control that way. And I really wanted to have good control over each one of these little rings. You can see the glitter I'm going to use for this layer right there, and it's just a very light pink iridescent glitter that is semi-translucent. And I did my best to match the alcohol ink underneath to the glitter. When making geodes, you definitely don't have to follow the texture that I'm doing. So perfectly fine to have areas farther outside from the middle that are more textured than others. You can play around with this as much as you want. That's the nice thing about doing these sort of geode style art pieces, is that you have a lot of room to play around with it, and there's sort of no wrong way to do it. Now it was time to do the white part. So hopefully you can see sort of the watermelon style coming out. We start with the deeper colored center parts, and it gets lighter as we go along to the outside until we get to this really thin iridescent white layer. And then we start the greens here. And of course I start with a lighter green, and then I'll follow that with a darker green to mimic watermelon rind. The green glitters that I will use are just fine cut glitters. I realize that my head pops into view so many times because there's a glare on this. I'm trying to figure out my lighting situation so that I have it lit up enough that you can see it well, but so that I don't have that glare. I haven't figured it out yet, so if anybody has any tips or tricks on that one, I would love to hear them. This layer of green glitter is actually a neon green, but because I colored this in a sort of darker green than the glitter itself, it doesn't look neon. I wish I had done this differently so that it was much more of a neon green as opposed to just a dark green. That's the neon green I'm using, and you can see it's significantly lighter than the color I laid down. I probably should have used the same color as I did with the light green glitter. I'm going back in with the Chunky Mix pink glitter here because I feel like I went too light with it. It had a lot of areas where it didn't look like it had any glitter because only the fine glitter showed up there. So I wanted to do more. And here I'm taking a darker green alcohol ink pen, and I'm just doing the sort of stripes that you see on the outside of a watermelon rind. I feel like it really started to look like a watermelon here, but I'm not done. And I want to make the outside areas that are white just plain white again. So I just used an ultra fine white holographic glitter. I could have just used clear or white resin, but glitter is life. If I can add glitter, I'm adding glitter. You can see the rhinestones I have there. These are black AB rhinestones, and they're called jelly rhinestones. That just means that they're made of resin and they're not clear glass on the top part. So I'm taking UV resin and my little clip-on lamp there, and I'm applying the largest size of those rhinestones to the most textured layer here, which is the crystal. And this is designed to mimic watermelon seeds. When I'm done applying all 3 sizes of these rhinestones, I will give it a full 3-minute cure under my larger lamp. I just want to say thank you for sticking around. I know this is a longer video than I normally do. I really appreciate it. And a big thank you to all of my subscribers. I'm so glad to have you along for the ride. I hope you're finding it's a fun journey. Once that was done, I did a final coat of regular 1-to-1 epoxy, and here it is. I absolutely love this. Oh, and I did do little lines with some pens, just paint pens. I thought it added a little something. It didn't need it, but I wanted to do it. I really, really like this. This is honestly one of my favorite projects ever. And there's just something about it that screams summer to me, and I'm ready for summer. I hope you enjoyed it, and again, thanks for sticking around for this entire video if you're still here. Have an amazing rest of your weekend. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, my kitschy cats and kittens, and I'll see you soon.